What's up, everybody? Jordan McAbee here, lead NASCAR analyst for RotoBaller, and we are on to the Enjoy Illinois 300 at Worldwide Technology Raceway, otherwise known as Gateway. This is a relatively new track to the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. We've only had two races here. We started racing here in 2022. Joey Logano went to victory lane in that race. Kyle Busch led the most laps. Flash forward to last year, 2023, Kyle Busch wins from the pole at Gateway, leads the most laps once again, 121 of the 243 laps led in that race. Now, when we look at Gateway, it is a short, flat track. It's 1.25 miles. It's egg-shaped, but overall, it's short and it's flat. So when we think of short, flat tracks, we're thinking of Phoenix. We're thinking of Richmond. We're thinking of New Hampshire. We're thinking of potentially North Wilkesboro, which we raced at a couple weeks ago with the All-Star race. You could also potentially throw in Nashville. Now, the difference between Phoenix, Richmond, New Hampshire is that at Gateway this weekend, they're racing the intermediate package, which throws another wrench into this analysis and trying to handicap this race, because not only do we have a limited track history of Gateway itself, but now it's a shorter flat track, but we're using the intermediate package. Now, remember back to Phoenix this year, Christopher Bell had an absolute rocket ship. He dominated the second half of that race, went to victory lane. Richmond, Martin Truex Jr. led the most laps, had the best car, but Denny Hamlin jumped the final restart, got the win at Richmond. Joey Logano dominated North Wilkesboro a couple weeks ago for the All-Star race, and last year at New Hampshire, Martin Truex Jr. went to victory lane. Nashville, it was Ross Chastain in victory lane last year. But as you can tell, mostly we're looking at the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas, and Toyota in general is having the most speed at these shorter flat tracks. However, like I said, Kyle Busch and a Chevy has been the fastest here at Gateway recently. So lots on the table this week, lots to analyze. So let's go through some of the favorites heading into the Enjoy Illinois 300 race weekend. Now, first off, a guy that's popping to me is Joey Logano, 14-1. If you know me, I don't really like betting outrights very much, but I am eyeing this at 14-1. Two starts here, Logano has finished third and first. He just dominated North Wilkesboro in that All-Star race. He arguably had the best car at Richmond late. In that final run, Logano was right up there with Martin Truex Jr. in terms of speed. He also finished second at New Hampshire last year. If I'm going to make an early week bet on a winner this week, I'm going to go with Joey Logano. Now, as I said, Joe Gibbs Racing guys are the ones to beat this weekend. Denny Hamlin's the favorite at most sports books, 6-1. He won Richmond this year. He had one of the best cars at Phoenix. He faded to 11th at the end of it. He finished second here at Gateway last season. Denny Hamlin's going to be a contender this week. He's had one of the strongest cars all season, both in the short track package and in the intermediate package. Denny Hamlin should definitely be on your radar. Be no surprise if Denny Hamlin won on Sunday afternoon. Martin Truex Jr., 9-1. Again, Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas. Can he finally get his first win of 2024? That 19 Toyota has had a ton of speed all season. They just haven't been able to get the win. You have to like his chances to win this weekend. Fourth best driver rating here at Gateway over the two races. He dominated Richmond this year. He led 55 laps at Phoenix this year as well, which is a track where he's somewhat struggled. So he seems to have gotten better at Phoenix. And we all know that Truex is just good at the short flat tracks. He won New Hampshire last year. He finished second at Nashville last year. Truex, definitely solid value there at 9-1 if you want to bet him. Now, also another Toyota that my early algorithm run is showing value on is Tyler Reddick at 12-1. I'm not betting him until we see some practice and qualifying, but I will note that the algorithm is showing some value on him. He had one of the best cars at Phoenix this year. He finished 10th. He's another one of those guys that finished late. If you look at his track record here at Gateway, though, finished 35th and 16th, but you'll never know when, Tyler Reddick, he's one of those drivers that you never really know when he's going to break out. He should have more speed than what he's had at Gateway. You have to like the Toyotas this week, and Reddick should be pretty solid. We can't talk about a short flat track without talking about Christopher Bell. He's at 10-1 this week. Obviously, short flat tracks are his bread and butter. He had a rocket ship at Phoenix. He's been decent at Gateway, 11th and 9th in the two starts here, and he was 6th at Richmond earlier this year. So can't really count out Christopher Bell. Obviously, the most recent race winner is he went to victory lane at Charlotte in that rain-shortened Coca-Cola 600 last week. Now, we've talked about Joe Gibbs Racing. We've talked about Joey Logano in the Penske Ford. What about Hendrick Motorsports? Kyle Larson is one of the kind of co-favorites according to sportsbooks heading into race weekend. He's at 7-1 at most of them. William Byron's at 10-1. But I will note, it seems like Hendrick Motorsports hasn't quite figured Gateway out. They have just one top five finish in 8 attempts as the organization as a whole. That includes both of Larson's starts, both of Byron's starts, both of Alex Bowman's starts, and then Chase Elliott has one start here, and Corey LaJoie filled in for Chase Elliott in that number 9 Chevrolet last season. Another thing to note is that we've run 488 total laps at Gateway in the Cup Series. Only 35 of those have been led by the Hendrick cars. Obviously, it's very difficult to fade Hendrick Motorsports. They're always strong, but I want to see what they look like in practice and qualifying this week because track history says that they haven't quite figured this place out yet. And if I'm looking for maybe like an early week, head-to-heads, I might be looking to go against Hendrick Motorsports just based on track history here at Gateway specifically. Looking a little bit further down the list, we have to always pay attention to the Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing Fords. Brad Keselowski's at 14-1. Chris Buescher is at 20-1. They are always strong. They've been strong all season long. Buescher finished second at Phoenix. He was strong at Richmond. Keselowski, over the last month and a half, seems to always be finishing first or second. Definitely keep an eye on those guys. They should have a strong showing this weekend as well. And then Kyle Busch is kind of a question mark. He has a great track record here. He has the best track record here. He's been incredibly fast in both races here at Gateway. He's at 16-1. Not good enough for me to bet him because obviously those Richard Childress Racing Chevrolets are lacking in speed right now, and I don't see them just turning it around in one race. Another one of those guys, I just want to see practice and qualifying before I make my mind up on Kyle Busch. Now, there are some early week bets that I really like this weekend. Michael McDowell sitting at plus 690 for a top 10 finish over on Fanatics. This is my favorite early week bet that I've had in a while. He was 8th at Phoenix this year. He was 9th here at Gateway last year. He was 18th at Gateway in 2002, but he had an average running position of 11.3. That 34 team has been able to get better at qualifying this year, where they're making the final round of qualifying on a pretty consistent basis. Track position is going to be big once again with this intermediate package and just being a short flat track in general here at Gateway. If McDowell can make the final round of qualifying, I really like his odds. I really like his chances to get a top 10 finish. And plus 690 is amazing value here. I liked it at 5-1 when Bet365 dropped it. DraftKings dropped him at 6-1. And then Fanatics comes out with plus 690. I've already bet it. I'd recommend you do the same. I really like that number. I think it's definitely going to shorten after practice and qualifying this weekend. Another top 10 bet that I like, Bubba Wallace plus 220. He's over there on Bet365 plus 220 for a top 10 finish. His track record here at Gateway is not amazing, but he was running 11th last year in this race. Brake failure happened late. Obviously didn't get the finish that he deserved. He's been a fringe top 10 threat, though, on most short flat tracks. He was 16th at Phoenix this year, 13th at Richmond. He ended up 6th at North Wilkesboro in the All-Star race. Last year at New Hampshire, he was 8th. 2311, obviously going to be bringing speed. They're similar cars to Joe Gibbs Racing. Joe Gibbs Racing is at its best right now on these short flat tracks. I think Bubba Wallace plus 220 is a great bet. There are also a couple other top 10 bets out there that I'm kind of keeping my eye on. They got Chase Briscoe sitting there at plus 240, I believe, over on Fanatics. And then Alex Bowman, who has been a top 10 machine this year, is actually leading the Cup Series in top 10 finishes. He's sitting at plus 220 for a top 10 at Bet365. But the two that I have locked in so far, Michael McDowell, top 10 finish, plus 690. Bubba Wallace, top 10 finish, plus 220. Those are my favorite early week bets. It's going to be a fun race here at Gateway. Hopefully it's not another dominating effort, just one guy stealing the show. But that's sometimes what we get with the NASCAR Cup Series. So thank you for tuning in. Good luck this weekend at Gateway. And we'll be back next week to talk about Sonoma and the second road course race of the season.